Hey everybody, welcome to MT Guitar. Today I want to show you 20 chords and why they're called what they're called. We're going to be starting with major and minor because those are the two pillars of not only chords but of music theory in general. Whether you're in a major or minor key, playing a major or minor pentatonic scale or mode, or if you're playing a chord, right? So we have, let's say A major is a good starting place. And we're going to define what these chords mean so that we know how to call them what they're called and why they're called what they're called, right? So a major chord is simply 1, 3, 5. But that might not be so obvious on the guitar because we're playing all these strings that are tuned in a certain way. So let me quickly break that down. We have an A, which is a 1. Now if I played an A major scale, say on the 5th string here, I'd get to a 3, but that 3 is not in this chord, so already off to a confusing start on the guitar. That's just how it goes. If I keep going though, I get to, there's my 3, right? 4, 5. This is in the A major scale. Here's a 5, so that is in this A chord. So we have a 1, 5. I'm going to keep going in this major scale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. Now here's a shortcut. We can just memorize this octave shape. Here's a 5th string, open, 3rd string, 2nd fret. That's 2 strings and 2 frets away is our A octave. So that's a 1. So we have 1, 5, 1. This is called a power chord. That's why if you play this, you'll see probably like the symbol A5 if you're looking at a chord sheet. And that means we don't have a 3rd. So far it's not really a major chord yet. It's just a power chord. If I keep going on the major scale, there's my 1, 2, 3. This is an open A major scale. And I find a 3. So we do have that in the chord. So we finally completed the prerequisite, the requirements for a major chord is 1, 3, and 5. Doesn't have to be in that order, obviously, right? 1, 5, 1, 3. And then let's keep going here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's a 5, it's in the chord. So we have a couple 1s, a couple 5s, and 1, 3. 1, 5, 1, 3, 5. Now, this may seem somewhat almost pointless, right? Like, why are we doing this? Because we want to be able to call every chord after this what it's called by knowing the numbers, all right? It's not just sort of useless information. This is actually incredibly useful, although it takes a while for it to soak into your understanding in a deep way. So, stick with it. All right, so we have A major. Now let's go to minor. Now what makes minor minor is 1 flat 3 5. So lucky for us, we can keep this 1 5 1 the same because those are called perfect intervals or perfect notes. We don't need to change those for a minor. But here we have an issue. We have a 3, not a flat 3. So we're going to take this 3, flat it, and we keep the 5 the same on top. So we have now a minor. We only had to change one note. Major, minor. All right, so those are the two pillars of music theory, major and minor, 1, 3, 5 or 1 flat 3 5. Now we're going to go on our journey here, and we're going to slowly learn as many chords as we can. All right, not slowly, probably quickly. We're going to start with sus4 because we see a lot of sus4, and it's something I like to teach because sus4 teaches us the importance of a 3rd by taking it away. All right, so if I play a sus4, I have a beautiful chord. It sounds like it's suspended in air a little bit, right? Well, that's because we're suspending the 3rd and we're giving it a sense of not quite tension, but of not being resolved. So here I took the 3rd, I went up a half step to the 4. Very important to know that from 3 to 4 in a major key is a half step. So I go up 1 fret and I have a sus4. Everything else stays the same, the 1s and 5s. So I only have 1, 4, and 5 in this chord. All right, so that's chord number 3. Chord number 4 is the sus2. If you follow the logic of the sus4, you might be able to guess what I'm going to say here. We suspend the 3rd, meaning we take it out, and we replace it with a 2. Beautiful chord, sus2, right? Gotta love sus chords. They will really spice up your playing and your songwriting and your arranging. So here we have the 3rd goes down to the 2 of the major scale. Notice I'm saying of the major scale. We're not playing a major scale, but the chords are defined and identified through the major scale. So there's a sus2. All right, we're going to try this in another key later, but let's get through all 20. All right, now we have what's called an add 2 or an add 9. Both are correct. Both are accurate to say add 2 or add 9. The reason sometimes we say 9 is because it's above, the 8 or above the octave. But anyway, they're a little bit tricky to play in A. Not that bad though. I have to add a 2 or a 9. So let's just call it add 2 for a sec. If it's not sus 2, it's add 2. Well, that means we're adding a 2 on top of the 3. So I need to keep this 3 here and add a 2. So both the 2 and 3 need to be there. So add 2. It's easier to play it in G because you have the 3 open and here's the 2 of G. But anyway, here's an add 2 or an add 9. Okay, so that was number 5, chord number 5. Now number 6 is going to be a 7th chord. All right, so here's where we have a little fun. In order to find a 7th chord, we need to add a 7 into the chord. So 1, 5, 1. So one of these ones needs to go down to a 7. So let's take this one, which is an A, and move it down to a 7. Now, it's not a major 7, it's a dominant 7. So if I just see the chord symbol A7, I need to take that A down to a flat 7. So I go 1, 7, which is a half step, flat 7, which is another half step. That might be a little confusing if you're not familiar with, scale degrees, but if I just play a major scale, the 7 to 1 is a half step. And if I flat any of these notes, I get a G note, okay? So that's why it's called A7. It's called a dominant A7, but we just call it A7. All right, now major 7 would be next. Major 7 means we're not going to flat the 7 and make it all bluesy and sort of modern sounding. We're just going to keep it as a major chord, completely major in the major scale. So the major 7, if you see like A, M, A, J, 7, we need the major 7 of the scale. So let's review the scale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that G sharp needs to be in the chord. Beautiful ringing A major 7 there. You don't see it in a ton of songs because it's considered to be a little bit too resolved, like it's a good ending chord perhaps, but maybe not a chord you'd see in a song with a lot of movement. All right, so A major 7, really nice chord. Now for an A6, if we see like 6, we need to add the 6th. Okay, so this is where might be a little tricky where we're at because that's as low as we can go on that string, a flat 7. So in order to add a 6, I want to maybe go up an octave. So I'm going to see this A chord again. I see this as a 5 here, right? 1, 5, 1, 3, 5. Okay, that's a 5. Whole step up from that is a 6. So now I can play an A6 by changing the 5 to a 6. All right. Now we're moving right along here. If I want to play a minor 7, all right, kind of zigzagging through our way through these chords here. A minor 7 implies that it's got the 1, flat 3, and 5, but it also has a flat 7. Okay, so a flat 7 is in the minor scale. So if I play an A minor, and I want to say, all right, I got the 1, flat 3, 5, but I need to add a flat 7. Same thing as the dominant 7. I take this 1, major 7, flat 7, or minor 7. Now I have an A minor 7. 1, 5, flat 7, flat 3, 5. That's number 9. All right. Number 10 would be a minor 6 chord. So now back to 6 chords. We talked about how this is a major 6. If I want it to be a minor 6, what do? We simply just flat that 3rd, right? And we keep everything else the same, even the 6. We keep it the same. So we would have beautiful chord. Kind of sounds like a little mysterious, right? So 1, 5, 1, flat 3, 6. All right. Now we have a weird chord coming up here. It's called A minor major 7. So if I want to play an A minor 7, but I want that flat 7 to actually be a regular 7 or a major 7, not a minor 7, I would still have a flat 3. It's still a minor chord, but I have a major 7. And this sounds like a beautiful film noir kind of chord, right? Sort of a mystery chord. Right? We're coming into a strange land, perhaps. Or there's some sort of mysterious thing that's happened. So that is a major 7. So 1, 5, 7, or major 7 if you will. 1, 5, major 7, flat 3, 5. Okay. The reason I'm saying 7 is because that's the scale degree. So we don't even need to say major 7. It's just 1, 5, 7, flat 3, 5. That was number 10. All right. Number 11 is going to be a 9 chord. All right. So here we get into upper extensions. It's a little bit tricky where we're at. So I could do it here. All right. But I'm going to choose to now change to D9 because to the key of D, because if I'm in A, I sort of have some issues. I could do it here as well, but that's not the most typical 9 chord. So I'm going to switch to D, where we can have a much more typical kind of 9 chord. Again, you could play that same shape at the A note, but because of the nature of it being in the 12th fret, let's switch to D. So I have a D. Now, here's a regular D bar chord in the A shape. All right, so this is a major chord. In order to play a 9, I need to have the flat 7 in there. So back to scale degrees. The flat 7 makes it a dominant chord, right? So a D dominant 7 would be something like this. Or if I was playing an open like that, with a 1, 3, 5 flat 7, right? 1, 3, flat 7, 1, whatever. Now, if I want to make it a D9, I have to stack that 9, which is a 2, up an octave, right? Because after 1 is an octave of 8, 8 is an octave of 1, I should say. 9 is an octave of 2. So a D9 is the second degree on top of a 7 of some sort. In this case, if I see D9, it's implying that it's on top of a dominant 7. So here's where things get a little confusing. And again, this is why I said it's kind of quick, and this takes time to sink in. But a D dominant 7 would require 1, 3, and a flat 7. We're going to skip the 5, it's fine. 1, 3, flat 7, 9 is that E note on top. How do we know it's a 9? Well, here's a 1. Got to know my octaves. Or here's a 1. Either way. And then the next note is a 2, but up an octave is a 9. So right, very good for funk, very good for jazz, R&B, and pop and rock if you have the right style. Okay, so there's your 9 chord. I'm just going to lump that in with minor 9. If I just go minor 9, I flat that third, I instantly have a minor 9. All right, so that's number, I'm losing track here, 11, I think. Now for 11, for an 11th chord, 11 chord, we need to add one more. All right. We don't really play dominant 11 too often. You might as well just do either a sharp 11 or a 7 sus4. So let's play a minor 11, which is much more common than a dominant 11. All right. So I now have my D minor 9, right? 1, flat 3, flat 7, 9. Now I add an 11, which is a 4 up an octave. How do I know that's an 11? Well, 1, 2, flat 3, 4. 4 up an octave is 8, 9, 10, 11. Here's where it gets a little confusing, right? But that is an 11 chord. It's stacked on top of a 7 and a 9, if you will, although the 9 is not necessary. All right, 13 is our final extension. So good job for hanging in there. We're going to circle back to some of these other things in a different key here. So a 13 would be saying we need to stack a 6 on top of a dominant 7. So if I have, I'm going to go back to A, all right? Let's say I have an A bar chord here. That's a major chord. 1, 5, 1, 3, 5, 1. But now, I'm going to make it dominant 7, okay? 1, 5, flat 7, 3. Off to a good start. In order to make it a 13, I need this 6 note. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I could bar it. That's technically an A13. But it's kind of uncomfortable, so I'm going to do a more jazzy approach here and get rid of the bar completely and go 1, skip the 5th string, which is the 5th. We don't need the 5th for upper extension chords. Flat 7, 3, 13. You know, also good for jazz, also good for R&B. Okay, so there's a 13. Now you know why it's called a 13. All right, now we get into sharp 9 or alt chords. All right, so if I have like the Hendrix chord, okay, what is is that? Very bluesy chord, very famous chord. We want to know why it's called a sharp 9. Well, again, a 9 chord implies that there's a dominant 7. All right, so if I have an E9, I've already taught you the D9. Here's an E9, right? 1, 3, flat 7, 9. Great. Well, sharp makes the note go up a half step. So, very simple. Now we know why it's called a sharp 9, and we can play it from scratch knowing an E9 up a half step. The reason it's so interesting is that we have a very sort of tense and strident sound between the 3rd and the sharp 9. They're a half step apart. Here's an octave of that 3rd. Down a half step is a sharp 9, and it's a very sort of, yeah, it's a dissonant interval, isn't it? It's combining the major sound of a dominant chord with the minor pentatonic sound of an E minor blues scale. Okay? Sharp 9, you might see it as called as an alt, right? E7 alt or sharp 9. There's 4 types of alt chords. There's sharp 9, flat 9, sharp 5, flat 5. All right, so we're going to cover those now. Flat 9 would be the same thing as taking the 9 and affecting it in some way. We're going to now flat that 9 to this note, right? To G flat. I'm sorry, to F natural. So that would be a flat 9 because we took this E9, we flatted it. So you have to bar it. So 1, 1, 3, flat 7, flat 9. Okay? All right, almost there. Now we're going to look at a diminished chord next. Diminished chord means 1, flat 3, so it's starting off as minor, but then we have a flat 5. It's the 7th chord of a major key, right? So if I'm in the key of D major, the 7th chord will be diminished. So here's a good example. I have a 1, a flat 5, right? We know that this would be like a C sharp 5 here. I moved to C sharp because it's the 7th note of D, so you can do this anywhere, but this would be a regular 5 and a 1. So we need to flat that 5. And then we need a minor 3rd. Well, here's a minor 3rd up here. Okay? So they're not that common. So 1, flat 5, flat 3 is a diminished note. It's kind of a spread diminished triad right now. I could do it close as well. It's kind of tricky if it's fretted, but you can do it in an open way. 4th fret, 2nd fret. Open would be a 1, flat 3, 5. All right, diminished chord. Now, you have also an augmented chord, which would be a sharp 5. All right, so if I have, say, an A, let's go back to A, we want a sharp 5. We could actually just do it in our open chord here, although it's tricky because we have to do it in both octaves, but this would technically be a sharp 5. An augmented chord. It's kind of weird to play. You could also do it here, all right? So any 5 you find. So here's 1, 5. I sharp it. Now I have a sharp 5 augmented chord. I could also just mute the first string. Or I could do a dominant sharp 5, an A7 sharp 5, a little more typical because they generally serve as a 5 chord. So here's an A7. Okay? I sharp that 5, a fret. There we go. This is the first chord of Oh Darling, right? The Beatles. Although I think he does it in a different key. Maybe he does it here. Right, so very useful chord as a 5 chord. All right, almost there. Now we're doing a minor 7 flat 5. So remember when I talked about the 7th chord of D, of the key of D is a diminished chord? Well, if I really wanted to flesh it out to a 7th chord, I would have a minor 7 flat 5. So it's called half diminished because we've added the 7th. So here's a 1, flat 5, flat 7, flat 3. So now you know why it's called a minor 7 flat 5 or half diminished. All right, excuse me. Now I think that's all 20, if I remember correctly. I want to show you rapid fire all 20 of those, or almost all in D, open D. So here's major. We take the 3rd, minor, D minor. Sus 4. We take the 3rd, we sus it to 4. Free falling, right? We sus it to 2. right, so sus2. Now add 9 is a little tricky. We have to keep the third. We add the 9. Okay. All right, how about 7? D7, we take that 1 and we flat it. We take a 7, which is a half step, and we flat it. Okay, flat 7. D major 7, we keep it in the major scale. 7 to 1 is a half step. So there's a major 7. All right, minor 7, we go back to minor, we add the flat 7 in there. D minor 7. D6, we're going to have a 6. So where can we find the 6? Well, 5 is here, 6 is there. That's a B note. Also the same as second string open is a B note. That's a D6. All right. D minor 6, we just flat the third. D minor 6. D minor major 7, we'll go to a minor 7 and then make that 7 a major 7, not a minor 7. A D9, we've already done that. G minor 9, G minor 11, D13, or, if you will, although there's no third in that, so I don't recommend that as much. D sharp 9, D7 sharp 9, D7 flat 9, D7 sharp 5, sharp 9, D7 flat 5. Also called a sharp 11. All right, D diminished, or like this, fully diminished, minor 7 flat 5 half diminished, and that's it. All right, so that's all 20 chords in D, showing you that you can do this almost in any key. With open chords, you'll have certain chords that work better. For instance, on a G, if I'm playing a G like this, I can play a G sus4 pretty easily, or an add 9, but it's going to be harder to play a certain chords, right? Like here, it's going to be hard to play a sus2 because I would need to, as I can do it, but I would need to get rid of the third because I need to suspend the third. So you'll have varying levels of success. I find E to be kind of difficult to do a sus2, right? How do we do a sus2? How do we get rid of this third? We can add the 9, but we can't get rid of the third that easily. I'd have to go like this. So that's a sus2. Or I could do a sus4 quite easily on an E. I could do, but I can't do E major 7 that easily because it has to be all the way up here. So I'd have to go like this. But an E dominant 7 is very easy because I just add the pinky or lift this and both are correct. So the goal of this is to find out why these chords are called what they're called. I know this is probably a dizzying video, but the point is to lay them all out there and you can go and maybe learn a couple at a time. I think that'll do it. I'll put a little chord sheet and diagram and study guide on the Patreon at patreon.com/mtguitar. Hope you're doing well out there, and let me know if you enjoyed these longer format theory videos or if they're just a little bit frustrating. That's fine too when you can just pause the video hopefully. But anyway, I hope you're doing well out there, and we'll talk to you next time. Thanks everyone. Bye.